support these NFTs, right? So, post mint, it's kind of just like, okay, how do I just like hand it off to the community and call it a day? And so, whereas with meme coins, like there's a chance for longer term uh, engagement of celebrities with the meme coins, and so that is giving rise to different kind of models of behavior. Like Iggy Azalea, I think is a great example of this, where like, and even Andrew Tate, like a lot of people hate him, but I think his coin is also an example of this, where there's clearly a more longer term play there, more of a social token play that's happening. So yeah, I think it's nuanced. I don't think it's like too. I mean, yeah, it's extractive and people will do dumb stuff to make small amounts of money, but I think that's not just unique to celebrities. I think it's like kind of it's a low hanging fruit, and crypto's always there as like this market that they can come in and do that in.
I think the
No,
education is
all
key.
facts.
I think the education is super key. Sorry, I just wanted to mention, like, I think that's super fucking cool that you're taking the time to like really break it down and having them read the Satoshi white paper. I think having that like base knowledge and understanding of kind of what Web3 and blockchain technology is helps get like a better like just an overall better grasp of it. And honestly, like this teaches you finance, this teaches you banking systems, this teaches you how to, how the economy entirely works. So if you can understand that and give them the knowledge of understanding that, they can really take it and run with it and actually make something bigger of it than like that quick pump and dump. We see it every day. Someone comes into the space and just rinse and repeats, or just gets that quick, oh, $10,000, and that's like, oh, I'm done, I'm out. Like that's insane. I honestly, I do like what he said is with Iggy Azalea and how she's running with it. And honestly, I hate to even say it, but like Lil Pump, like dude came in here and he's done more marketing for Solana than a lot of
Did he
people
just
have in their
disconnect,
entire
guys?
life.
I can't hear anything.
Uh,
Oh no,
No,
I heard it's
I heard him. It's just you.
okay, making sure. I was like, am I just ranting for no
Oh
reason?
shit.
But no, I just like I appreciate that. I think that the giving these people the tools and resources to have a better understanding makes the ecosystem a lot better, and we're starting to see that. Like we're seeing more knowledge being passed around and less quick cash grabs happen due to people being in a better headspace than they were, even a month or two ago.
until she can like I gave her the Boys Club comic book, and I said until you can recite their Ethereum contract addresses, you're not ready. And that's the truth, right? That's actually the truth. Is like you literally have to understand this fucking culture inside and out of it. If you don't know what Pepe is and how culturally significant Pepe is, then how could you even talk about a meme? Right? Like you have to kind of just do the base layer, like the starter pack at the very least. And I don't think I've seen anyone do that yet because a meme coin is a lifelong commitment. It's not if you're going to do it, like there's only one to do it, only one way to do it right, and that's integrate it with your life, right? Integrate, you have to. And if you don't, then don't touch this shit. And that's what I tell everyone. And that Sahil kid, I had to literally call up all the top managers and all of my buddies that are huge in the industry because he was showing FaceTimes. He got to John Monopoly. That's Ye's manager. Like these scammers that have bags are getting to like my friends, right? Like guys I've worked with for fucking like 20 years. So this is fucking unbelievable. And that's the thing is when they give an offer to Sydney Sweeney for $1 million, and guess what? They answer back because they take it
Okay, can we
seriously. And
talk
a
about
lot of
that
these
for a
people are
second?
so green.
So I wanted to ask about that. Do you know anything about that? Because I thought like that was more of a hack, and I know that's the Hills team. But did they just take her account? Did she hand that off? Was there money involved? Like that whole thing just kind of blew my fucking mind. Like you're saying, like the fact that they can get so close to these people that they shouldn't be, and that they shouldn't give this information to, but they are.
It's middlemen, it's social media managers, and it's like when you delegate these Twitter accounts to somebody who makes $60,000 a year, and then they get a DM saying, "I'm gonna like send you a $500,000 in crypto for 2 tweets." Well, they fold. They fold like a chair.
Yeah, I think a lot of it too is that, um, like these guys will be
Would you
getting
mind me
DM.
speaking? Can I speak?
Just let me finish this one first. So basically, if you're a manager, you're getting DMs to like have your talent go do a concert at like some rich guy's wedding or at this and that, and you're kind of used to this idea of like you're gonna make a million, you're gonna have him make $1 million off of doing random stuff, and so I think that when a guy like Sahil DMs and says, here's $1 million if you do this, this, and that, they're like, well, no, normally my guy has to fly out and like perform at a wedding, maybe stay overnight, and like here, all he has to do is tweet something. So it seems like a no brainer, I think, and I think lowest hanging fruit wise, like it just looks like the easiest thing to do. Whereas, if you tell him he's gonna read the white paper, he may do it, but it becomes a different proposition. So I think that honestly, the only way to solve it is for people not to buy it. But you know, as long as people are buying it, then this will happen forever, in my opinion. It's just the way the world works.
I think also um, another thing is we need to see some legal precedent happen. Um, People need to be prosecuted for this or whatnot, and celebrities need to see.
Sorry,
Okay,
can I talk now? Sorry, I was supposed to be
Yeah.
after Zoo. Yeah. So Zoo, why did you kick me off the project? I had record tapes of everything. Like,
He's rugged. Great. That's good.
Yeah.
Cutting people off. Come on, bro.
All right. Who else do we have here?
I was thinking about who's really impressed me lately. Definitely Iggy, for how quick she started learning stuff, like her interviews and stuff, and also just sort of snapping back at the crypto nerds, like like people asking her if she knows about like X, Y, Z yet, and she's like, fucking hell, I've only been here 3 days. Like, give me a fucking break. There's a lot of sort of weird gatekeeping of people as well. It's like you should know. Somebody made a post a while back, which was like, celebrities shouldn't be allowed to launch coins until they navigate our ecosystem, they use our dexes, they provide LP at least. Stuff like that made me laugh. Like you've got to go through this damn circus to do it. But definitely Iggy, like in terms of a smart person really trying to learn quickly, like really impressive, in fact.
Yeah, and you know what's kind of interesting is that last cycle it was really hypothesized that there would be like music NFTs and like art NFTs, actor stuff, and I think what you've seen instead is you've seen just like the primitive of like a simple SPL token or ERC20 token be kind of a better vessel for that energy, and I think the reasons for that are kind of interesting. I mean, if you think about like schema, right? Like the odds that we can describe the schema with which like celebrities interact with other people from a platform perspective is just very, very low. Whereas all the tooling that we've built is essentially for people to trade tokens, right? You think about like Dex Screener, you think about like Telegram bots, you think about exchanges like and listings. So I think that you know that's kind of something where this actually does long term, I think, lead to like more interesting forms of adoption, not just simply like a ticker. I do think that that is the long term road, and so I think this is the first step of that. Like it was never going to be that they like somehow launched a music NFT like as their first like entry into crypto. But I think within a year, you could see someone like Azalea actually have like something musical tied to it. She could have a concert even, stuff like that. I mean, I think all that is possible, and I think that so I think adoption always plays out in ways that are unpredictable. But I think the general direction of this stuff is in that direction.
That's what, like, to your point there, I think it creates that community. It allows that community to build within that SPL or ERC token and, like, have that and gives the artist time to, really utilize those community holders and people that are in buying into the project and then allow them to get them into music NFTs or other resources they're creating, be like within that community and within that project that they're building. So, yeah, it's honestly a cool call.
KMG, what's up? Long time. Just realized I spelled Super Cycle wrong on this title here.
Super Sile. Super Kyle.
Honestly, I'm like a spelling bee champion, so I'm kind of embarrassed that I missed that one, but it's okay.
Did you do the
Can
spelling bee in school? Like stand up and
yeah,
spell words?
yeah,
Awesome.
I did that. I mean, I got I think to regional something, and then got mocked pretty hard by Indian kids. I think in my region. But I had a good run. Kanji, you can speak. Your hands up. I'm gonna boot him if his hands up. He doesn't speak in the next 3 seconds.
What was the word that got you?
It's an embarrassingly easy word, so I'm not gonna repeat it because I know how to spell it really well now.
Now I really need to know what it was, bro.
No, it's too easy.
Yeah, I'm itching right now. I'm like, what was it?
We won't judge you, bro. I promise. I promise.
I think about it. It's a little,
Yeah,
it's a
dude.
little bit traumatic for me, so I'll think about it.
All right, that's fair.
He's like, I still got PTSD. I still
He
remember being
says
on
it
that
right now. I'll
stage.
become a fucking ticket.
Yeah.
I wonder what the most misspelled simple word is. I'll look it up.
You know who's terrible at spelling is I mean Kyle's not here, so he can't hear this, but Kyle is a terrible speller. I've seen him spell definitely with an A before.
Say what? Definitely.
Like definitely.
All the engineers I
Is
know
it
are
the
like consistently terrible
TEH?
at spelling. I don't know like why it is.
He'll mix up a roll and like rolling, like what's your roll? Like ROLL. Straight up, he'll write that too.
I've seen him do weird grammar, but not much spelling mistakes. I think he likes to keep it simple as well to avoid it.
Yeah,
like
I think he's starting. Yeah, exactly. I used to keep like I'm like I really shouldn't say this, but I used to keep like track of all these just because I thought they were funny snippets.
I like it when we send Kyle like a long message, like XYZ idea, like little nuances and stuff, and he just writes like can. It's one of those.
He's actually more Singaporean. He's like a Singlish by nature. You know, if he grew up speaking Singlish, I think he would crush at Singlish. But anyways.
Unrelated, Sue, what do you think of the JD Vance pick? If that's something you're following, I see a lot of like the Silicon Valley VC guys very very bullish on it.
I mean, I think he's a good pick for Trump. I think it'll help him with in the Midwest. Is the Rust Belt, the hillbilly elegy stuff. I do think he's also a bit of a Manchurian candidate, just in terms of what he is, right? Like, a Manchurian candidate means that like he has kind of people that he's really a proxy for. And by people, I mean like, you know, the kind of the Peter Thiel types of the world. And so I think that that's exciting in Silicon Valley a lot because I think that, you know, like I think JD Vance, like I remember like 7 years ago, I started to hear about his name, and it was seen as like a purely like a Thiel proxy because you know the guy comes out of nowhere and kind of is kind of designed to win like elections in some way, and so I think that you know it's really good for I think some industries that he can get into power because you know he's going to generally speak to a more like a younger kind of a vibe and then also a more sort of authentically right wing kind of a vibe, whereas previously you know if we look at the previous right wing candidates. I think Mitt Romney being like a good example of this, but it's much more of like a kind of centrist, kind of a consensus building kind of a thing. Whereas I think you're seeing a rise of like a proper ideological right that's focused on like growth. So I think you know he'll be very pro crypto because the people that back him are very pro crypto and also be very deregulatory. I think that you know part of the reason why we may not actually see like celebrities get cracked down on for meme coins is because you know if you get a Trump Vance kind kind of a thing, then it just won't matter. If you just like do meme coin stuff, it also won't matter because like there's no regulatory body that cares that much about meme coins. And so, I think that should be very bullish. I don't think the vice president generally has that much power in U.S. politics, so I think it's not like he can like get bills passed and stuff. But I think that it's something where there's going to be a lot of talking points where he's going to be very pro, and I think that you will probably see the SEC turn very pro crypto at some point if on a Trump victory. So all that's good. You'll get a lot of nice speeches, nice talking points. You may actually even see like him like go to like crypto events. I think that's possible. So like I think overall it's extremely bullish. I think that I think his age is extremely bullish as well because his cohort is in general a sort of a crypto native cohort, and he would be very comfortable in those circles. So um, I think that it generally leans toward a more genuinely pro crypto direction. I think if it was just Trump and then like another old dude, there is more of a chance that it's just like pure lip service. Um, Whereas now I think it's going to be less likely to be just pure lip service.
Yeah, I'd
My second that.
I'd agree with that. I've only really seen kind of like the bullet points on him. I haven't gotten exposed to like enough of his speech at length.
He's got some crazy takes. Like there are like I know like his previous election when he was running for whatever office he's in right now. I couldn't tell you, but I saw just some of the clips of that, and I mean there's some hot takes in there. But honestly, it's like you said, just that getting that younger generation, some youth in there, and then someone who's really Republican, has that Republican vote, has those Republican ideologies. It fits really well with the like what Trump's pushing. They mesh. It's gonna align kind of with like his whole narrative right now. Again, Trump getting into the crypto community, entering into like all of these, like you said, the Midwest, the Bible Belt. It really brings in a lot of the votes that he's trying to capture, and he's already captured, but solidifying them.
Do you have any ideas on what you think their approach is going to be to addressing, handling, regulating our industry? Or are they kind of just going to leave it as is to self-determine?
Yeah, I think in general, Trump's instinct is deregulatory, right? I think when he first took office, um, in 2016, he said something like, for every one law passed, two must get repealed. Or for every rule created, like two previous rules must be taken out. So basically saying that you can't keep creating more rules without taking out old ones because otherwise there's going to be like 1,000 laws in the books. Um, so I think that that's in general the spirit that he's coming at industry with. I think that there's like I guess two components, right? I think one is enforcement and one is and one is new laws. So I think that on the enforcement side, I think that you I think you'll see a more like maybe a different shift of focus for the SEC. Like right now, I think Gensler is kind of focused on the sort of crown jewels of DeFi in the US, like Uniswap, and so I think that that doesn't even make much sense for the SEC to target. I think they're trying to set certain precedents and kind of almost being lawmakers themselves, right? And I think that I think in a Trump administration, you're not going to see kind of that vigilante regulatory body, right? I mean, at the end of the day, even though it's an independent body, like it still emanates from the executive branch, and so I think that there's it's going to be it's kind of like a Reagan deregulatory of energy, right? In the 80s, where it paves the way for lots of stuff. Like obviously, I think if every company starts like issuing tokens and like pumping them and stuff like that, it's not good. So I think that there will be lines to be drawn, but I think in general it'll be um, like I don't think he's gonna help pass new laws to have like ICOs be legal, for instance. Like I think there's not going to be a rewriting of securities laws. I think that would be extreme. but I do think that you will see just a general dovishness. I think it's very good for Bitcoin miners, very good for mining. I think it's relatively good for staking, relatively good for exchanges. I think that it's probably also good for creators. I don't know what it will look like for pure DeFi. I think pure DeFi is still where it interfaces the hardest with like or competes the hardest with the current financial system. And so, banks will ask the question of how come they can do it and we can't, or how come they can do this and we can't. And so, that does step on toes and does trigger more like attention. But I think in general it's quite dovish. Um, so I think the DeFi teams that like suck it out in the US, I think in the long run they'll have their day in the sun. I think you'll see these switches starting to get turned on. I think JD Vance had an interesting speech where he pointed out that part of the reason why meme coins are doing well is because they have no utility and hence aren't securities. And so he thinks that the regulatory bodies are currently doing something which is almost backwards, which is saying, I need these coins to be as useless as possible so that they go up, right? And also that they don't get in trouble. Whereas the coins that are more useful or do have tech backing them, they become in a way more risky because one there's not just execution failure risk, but also too is the regulatory risk. And so he points out that this is actually anti-innovation, and you know given that you can't ban people from buying meme coins anyways, you might as well also have a better path for utility tokens and for some kind of a guardrails in place, but like to disincentivize tokens from giving value accrual, I think is I think for Vance, I think is a it doesn't make much sense, and so I think if JD Vance was president, there would be a high chance of like a securities law rewriting. But I think that like if we zoom out a lot, like the reason why securities laws exist is still relatively valid, right? Like it's the simple concept is that not everyone is qualified to assess investments, and so if you have people promising that through their efforts that they will give a token tons of value, then that will trigger a lot of retail to say, okay, well, I'm relying on him to like do work really hard, and then the coin pumps, right? So that it does make sense to regulate that, because if you don't, then like anyone can make any kind of promises, and then that creates a like from a societal perspective, it kind of creates the wrong dynamic where society takes a more elitist view, which says like if your idea is good, then you should be able to raise from people that have over a certain amount of money. And so if you can't, and you feel like your investment is uniquely targeted to retail, then you're probably scamming them, right? Like, and historically that's been true, right? Like if something is, you can't sell it to family offices or you can't sell it to rich people, but you can sell it to retail, then therefore it's probably a scam. Like that's been a really good heuristic for society for many, many years, right? And so, you know, that that's why, like something like crypto is a bit subversive to that, because retail can in fact be smarter even though they're poor, because they're for instance better at computers, or for instance they're better at collecting, right? Meme coin is a great example where retail is going to be way better than institutions, and so you know that definitely leaves room for retail to play. But I think in general, securities laws, if you had those repealed, then you will have people like doing stuff like selling restaurants that don't exist to like retail or something, or like like just completely insane stuff, like selling you the Brooklyn Bridge or something. So I think that that's kind of the balancing act that they have to do.
I think that's the next 404, bro. The Brooklyn Bridge. We're gonna do this next NFT 404. Selling pieces of the Brooklyn Bridge. That's a really great take, dude. Like that's exactly what it needs. And I don't think it's gonna be so much the regulation is going to come somehow, some way. They're doing their best. I think that's what the Uniswap play from the SEC was about. They wanted more control, and there's, I think about the same thing with all of these, like Coinbase, especially after they settled so quickly with SEC to get out of it. Like, what kind of deal was cut? What kind of information is being given? What are they trying to track or learn to get to do with that information? And I think people are just tired of seeing, or the SEC's tired of seeing money go that could have been taxed, that they could have had, come back into government hands. So yeah, I think they're gonna want some form of regulation, but as you said, like, you can't stop meme coins, you can't stop platforms, you can't really, put the cat's out of the bag, and all we can do is really just be a part of it. And hopefully they will give utility projects some edge, some advance that allows them to, really stand out as the stocks that they are, because that's what I see those as. I see, true utility plays, or plays that have some sort of, future development or way of better implementation into this Web3 ecosystem. That's a stock. That's something you can hold for a long time.
Yeah, for sure.
Sue, do you have any thoughts on Vitalik basically all but saying that he's going to support Biden?
It's kind of insane because Biden's going to drop out almost certainly in the next month. Did he say Biden specifically, or did he just mean Democrats?
Yeah, I mean he heavily implied it. Basically, he said it without saying it. It was some article that was like,
Yeah, the one about how crypto shouldn't support Trump just because he's pro crypto, right?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see that as like a pro Biden. I saw that more as like an anti-Trump. But yeah, I guess the nuance there is that he's just not right wing at all. Like, I think he's very center left, and I think it's also consistent with a lot of the early Ethereum kind of people. Um, like there's a certain zeitgeist there that I think he's part of, right? It's a kind of like a pro Ukraine, pro Taiwan, pro Western, a certain kind of Western values. So I think he's kind of staking out his ground there and saying that's the play. But I also don't think he's gonna like he will adjust too. Like he is ultimately still kind of a champion. So champions adjust. I think he's just a little more ideological than most, but I don't think he's gonna like. I don't think he's gonna be like a never Trumper. Like like Ethereum. Like I mean, he should know best. But Ethereum did best during the first Trump administration, 2016 to 2020. Like that was a big run. 30 cents to 300. It's like 1kx while Trump is in office. So he's lived under Trump before. He'll make his points. I think one of his points is interesting, which is that we shouldn't people shouldn't support a candidate just because they're pro crypto, and I think he's actually not wrong on that. Like, I think that in the future, I mean, I actually think Trump is a decent candidate, and he's also like a decent he's a good direction for America. But there could easily be people that are like really bad direction, but they're just like, I'm gonna pump all your coins. And so I think his point is simply speaking valid. I don't think it's valid in this particular case because you know, um, I think that Democrats and Republicans have like fair. I mean, I'm not American, so I mean, I'm speaking as an outsider, but I think they have genuine disagreements, and I think that Republicans are gonna put forward a vision that a law and order kind of vision, and also a tougher on immigration, deregulation in other aspects, and so I think it's a vision that is going to be really popular, especially among men in the U.S. So I think that it's something that Vitalik is going to have some cognitive dissonance about, where like his base of holders and community is going to be pro-Trump, while he himself is still maybe in the legacy framework of viewing things. Um, I will suspect he just stops talking about politics once Trump wins.
Yeah, I just thought it was really interesting hearing that take from someone whose like entire life's work is and net worth. I mean, you never know, but is in crypto and advocating almost for people who are within the government who are very much against it, against innovation, against letting this stuff just exist somewhat
I mean,
freely. I mean, it was
I'd
Uniswap
honestly
is
love to
similar,
add
right?
to that, if that's all right.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Uniswap is similar, right? I think Uniswap founders are all, and the legal team is also quite Democrat, and they have donated tons to Dems. I mean, I do think that people are just genuinely left wing sometimes. Like I think they're also allowed to be. Like I think that the world needs both. You can't just have all right wing people in the world. Then your Overton window is like really really far to the right. You also can't have all left wing people in the world. Then it's like it's just communism. So I think that it's not unreasonable that there's a couple people, there's a few people in crypto that still they would rather get Democrats on board with crypto as opposed to like just make it like right wing MAGA. Like another example of this is probably like Chris Dixon, right? Like Andreessen, where like I speak with him a lot about crypto and politics, and he had I mean he's obviously more left wing, at least back then. I'm sure now he's pro Trump, but you know the thinking there was that it's going to be about creator economy, and so crypto generally is a way that people it creates social mobility, it creates a kind of a level playing field, and all this kind of stuff. And unfortunately, I think Democrats have kind of missed that window of opportunity to cash on that narrative. um, and so in part maybe that's also how the way the markets played out, but because of that I think they've kind of you know ceded that ground to Republicans to say, you know what, well, we believe in this because we believe in freedom in general. And we believe in, your right to transact, your right to self custody, even potentially, like your all this kind of stuff. And, I do think there's probably a world where, maybe a Democrat like a JFK, he could have seen it differently. Or, that could have been possible. Because you can just be pro crypto while being left wing as well. Like there's nothing that says you can't. It just so happens that the current flavor of the Democratic Party is a little bit more authoritarian than it needs to be, and probably a little bit more prickly than it needs to be. I think part of that problem is because they're just too old as well. Like AOC often makes these really interesting points about like how she I think she recently put out something which was like, there are all these closed door meetings now trying to push Biden out. Like that's ridiculous. Like the public should be involved. Like you can't just do that. And like even though she's very left wing, and I don't think she said anything about crypto ever, like she is kind of pushing back against the Democratic establishment, which is like saying, how do we come up with our view on crypto? Because I think if Democrats polled their audience, they wouldn't even be that anti-crypto. But I think it's just because I think the perceived audience versus the actual audience is a bit different. And so Dems have kind of, I think Dems have gone really far into identity politics as well, where they're planning to win on kind of certain types of identity. And so when those identities break down and they kind of reform like around maybe financial lines or around industry lines, that kind of is very disturbing to the overall strategy, right? Like that's why if you see Democrats, like they're making a big point out about how JD Vance's wife is like like an immigrant, and how like, well, I thought Republicans are against immigrants, whatever, right? And so like I think that ability to even have like basic nuance is kind of gone from a lot of the Democratic discourse. Like the IQ levels are just so low. And I think the problem for them is that people are also kind of aware of this, and so yeah. I mean, I don't blame Vitalik or like Hayden for being like Dem still. Like I think if they waited out 20 years, Democratic Party could be like the force of good. So Oshimiri.
Yo, yeah, I think that your thesis, like what you're saying, is honestly super spot on for where we're at right now. I've heard this argument from a bunch of different people in a bunch of different ways, and I think that, playing devil's advocate, of course, people fail to consider the fact that partially, at least, maybe not for Vitalik specifically, but for a lot of older heads in crypto, like the government being involved at all, and even like Coinbase or like other these centralized companies that are trying to kind of like get their paws onto crypto. That's like not that's the whole that's the opposite of what crypto is supposed to be. You know, so there are a lot of people that have this ideology, maybe not on crypto Twitter because of the fact that, you know, Twitter is such a nuanced new wave thing, but there are people, builders especially, that have this ideology that these people that are jumping into crypto, the government officials especially, they don't trust them, which honestly is fair. I mean, you know what? Because you got to ask yourself, what is the end goal? Like they're not hiding it. We America wants to control crypto. Cool, awesome. I'm American. That benefits me, but might not be the best thing for everybody else or the people that wanted it to really be that truly decentralized global currency. So I mean, there are always two sides to it. I definitely think that, like, it's obvious, dude. I agree that Trump and his ideologies are more pro crypto right now. We're seeing it in the fucking charts. If anybody's opened their fucking eyes for the last like week, but and I think that the Democrat stance on it is honestly very telling of what, you know, their ideologies in terms of crypto. Like crypto's empowering people. Crypto's empowering in a lot of ways the general populace, at the very least in the short term. So, you know, this it's super interesting to see the nuance and how this plays out. And I definitely want to ask your opinion, Sue, on where you think that this is headed in the next 10 years, 20 years. You know, what is the future of our decentralized finance, especially as compared to, you know, the original ideologies for it?
Another thing that needs to be added to that, dude, is Zoo has so much knowledge on this. Like, this is my first time popping in here, but I am really like, this is a super bullish conversation.